Hello, everybody. This is Gino Johnson, CEO of Champions for Veterans, and I am so pumped for today's episode of Convos with Heroes. We have a great American hero on with us in Joe Polanin. Excited to really hear his story and excited for you guys to hear it as well. But of course, before we hear it, I'll go ahead and say hey to my dad. Hey, Dad, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Sanders, and I'm excited, man. We got a phenomenal American hero, Navy Captain, '06. Man, I can't wait to hear Joe's story. So I'm going to shut it down and let this thing get to going.
That's right. That's right. I'm pumped. And I'll go ahead and read you guys his bio here so you can learn a little bit about Joe before we hear from him. So Captain Joseph Polanin grew up in Carteret, New Jersey, was the valedictorian of Carteret High School, class of 1986, first student, the school's history, appointed to the U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis, Maryland, and was commissioned an ensign in May 1990. He was the honor graduate of Basic Diving Officer Class 94-30 at the Naval Diving and Salvage Training Center, Panama City Beach, Florida, and qualified as an Explosive Ordnance Disposal, EOD technician at Indian Head, MD, in February 1996. Captain Polanin commanded EOD Mobile Unit 12 in Virginia Beach, VA, Task Group 56.1 in Manama, Bahrain, and Naval School Explosive Ordnance Disposal. Over 3,400 students, instructors, and staff at Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. The sole EOD individual high-risk training command within the Department of Defense. He was the deputy commander of Combined Joint Task Force PALADIN in Afghanistan, which integrated U.S., Afghan, and NATO forces from 46 countries to counter the threats posed by improvised explosive devices, IED, and terrorist networks. Captain Polanin commanded Task Force 68 in Rota, Spain, and led more than 2,600 sailors and Marines in who enabled U.S. and NATO forces across 69 countries in Europe and Africa. He established Task Force SPARTA, which synchronized all U.S. and allied capabilities in Africa to counter IEDs and terrorism. He advised the President, Secretary of Defense, and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on global operations, and while serving at the Pentagon, was handpicked to represent the military at the National Security Council. Captain Polanin's final military assignment was Deputy Commander and Director of Operations for U.S. Special Operations Command Central. Forward deployed primarily in Qatar until his retirement in 2020 after 30 years of active duty service. Units and warriors under his command earned numerous commendations for valor and meritorious service in combat, counterinsurgency, and other special operations with the U.S. and multinational forces across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Captain Polanin earned a Bachelor of Science degree in history with a Russian language minor from the Naval Academy, a Master of Business Administration with honors in 2007 from Grand Canyon University, Phoenix, Arizona, and a Master of Arts in Strategic Security Studies as the distinguished graduate of the 2014 Combating Terrorism Fellowship at the College of International Security Affairs, National Defense University, Washington, D.C. He wrote Defeating Violent Radical Islamism, published in U.S. Naval Institute's Proceedings, October 2016. He is a graduate of the Air Command and Staff College at Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama, and the Joint Forces Staff College in Norfolk, Virginia. Captain Polanin's personal honors include the Defense Superior Service Medal, 3 awards, Legion of Merit, Bronze Star, various unit and campaign awards, the Delta Mu Delta Honor Society for Business Leaders, and a Department of State commendation for transformational diplomacy. He resides in Tampa, Florida with his wife of 28 years, Deanne, and their daughters, Kiana and Sydney. Sir, so happy to have you on with us. Thank you so much for your service.
It's my pleasure. It's my honor to join you and your father today. And I just want to say thank you so much for that very kind and generous introduction. I'm not sure who you were reading about, though.
Well,
I appreciate it.
I guess we're going to find out.
I appreciate it.
Of course. I guess we'll find out today.
That's it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, well, go ahead. Just, we'd love to hear about you. Just tell us about who you are.
Sure. Well, I come from a large family. I'm number 5 of 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. I learned at an early age what it means to work together what it means to be a team, and what it means to support others around you, and to be supported in turn. And I knew at an early age that I wanted to do something in the military, wasn't quite sure what. My father, who passed away when I was very young, served in the Army Air Corps during World War II, and then later on in the Air Force during Korea. And I learned, although I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him in life, I learned a lot about what it means to serve, what it means to sacrifice, and what it means to put someone else before you. Because really, to me, serving in the military, that's what that means. You never come first. There's always someone or something that is more important: the mission, the team, the purpose, and your own ideas, your own needs, your own desires always come last. That vision of working together in a team like that, of people who all care about the same things, who are all willing to have your back as you have theirs, and are always interested in tackling a tough assignment. And we faced many in the time that I served. That was always very inspiring to me. So I went to the Naval Academy thinking actually that I was going to go into the Marine Corps. And then my ideas changed later on after I met some of the officer representatives who were involved in diving in the Navy. And I said, that's what I want to do. I did not know that would take me into explosive ordnance disposal at the time. This was the late 80s. And I learned that later on. And it became what I found out later to be my life's calling. So sometimes we don't know that when we're 20 or 21, we don't know that what we're actually stepping into is our life's pursuit, what we're meant to do, where we're meant to be, and what our calling is. And that for me is what happened. And I'm very, very glad that it did.
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm impressed. When my son read your bio and I heard EOD, and let me explain what that is to my son. Being around explosives, out special forces and weapons, and you get on these ranges or you get out down range and something doesn't blow up that was supposed to blow up. And you have to call Joe in and his crew, an EOD, because what we normally do, we clear back X amount of meters, depending on what the ordnance is. And we say, hey, an 81 millimeter mortar round is down there. It did not blow up. And we're not going anywhere near it. Because if it does blow up, it's going to kill us. And it's in a spot it shouldn't be, or whatever that may be. And so I've been a part of pulling back and calling in these EODs to come in. And I was glad when they got there with all their gear on. And I never forget, I would always say, I remember being on a grenade range and these things not going off. And if you ever, a live grenade is one of the most scariest things you ever want to be around when it goes off. It is, TV doesn't do it justice what a live grenade does. And to see these guys come in and do what they do and take care of that ordnance, I've always said that is, people think about being a Green Beret and special ops guy is tough. EOD, no thank you. There's nothing in my human being, nothing in me would make me want to do your job, sir. I can tell you that right now, 100%. And anybody watching this video, yeah, big bad Ranger and Green Beret, I would never want to do his job. Talk about that, man, because I wanted to explain it for the civilians, because military will watch these videos, but a lot of civilians won't know what EOD is. So I just had to take my time and break that down.
Sure. Sure.
What what goes in your head and make you want to do that job? Because just explain that to us, to anybody listening.
Yeah, it's a interestingly enough, when I was in command of the EOD school, I had a young officer ask me, or officer candidate ask me that same type of question, and I answered it in this way. There are many qualities that will have the potential to make someone successful in the EOD profession. You can speak about courage, you can speak about physical fitness, mental toughness, academic excellence, certainly all those things are important. But there's an intangible quality, I call it grit, tenacity, the thing that you can't quite put your finger on that makes it so that you don't quit, no matter what the challenge is, no matter what the problem is. And when you don't quit, you ensure that your teammate who's there with you is successful as well. Because despite the problem, I think the core attribute of what makes someone want to go into this profession is they have to be very inquisitive. They have to have a very critical mind, and they have to have that grit or that tenacity that no matter what the circumstance, no matter what the problem is, I will find a way to solve it, or I will make one. You take the exact same improvised explosive device, let's say a pipe bomb of some variety, of some size. You take it and you put it in the middle of an urban center on a city street or a sidewalk. That is a very different situation than that exact same device in a village in Afghanistan or Iraq. It's different. All the variables are different. All the situations that you face are different. And the EOD technician has to be able to recognize what is appropriate, what is safe, and what is the best method to render that device safe, given the circumstances that you're in. And so having that critical mindset, having the ability to be tenacious, to not let go, and to solve those problems, and to work together in a team. Because even though many of the actions are performed individually for safety reasons, you are always backed up by a team. And that can't be overstated.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible, because, you know, you're talking about a high level of not just the different skills required to do the job, but an understanding, you know, of behavior and things of that nature. And then just working with your people, man, that's phenomenal. So let's talk with this. You know, I don't want to jump too fast, because I want to take time and marinate on this conversation.
Absolutely.
Because very seldom do we get a retired Navy commander, a lifer on here. Now, let's go back for a minute. So now you're finally in the Naval Academy. You know the direction you want to go. And so you're getting ready to graduate from the Naval Academy and start different schools. Talk us to that point as you graduated from the academy, and then kind of move us through your career a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. My first assignment was on a minesweeper out of San Diego, and this was at the time, 1990. This was a very, very typical assignment for a brand new junior officer who aspired to go into the diving or EOD profession. Basically, you would go to a ship in the fleet. You would qualify on all the systems on the ship, and then from there you would go on to dive school and EOD school. So the first 4 to 6 years of your initial training and your initial experiences in the Navy at that time were pretty much set. Today, that's not the case. Ensigns are commissioned directly from their commissioning source. They go right into dive school and EOD school, and they skip that step where they go out onto the ship. But 1990, Ensign Polanin reported to the USS Constant in San Diego. That was my first ship. The keel on that ship was laid in approximately 1941. These were the wooden minesweepers that were designed World War II Korea era. And it was stationed out of San Diego. I was the operations boss on there, and we did a deployment to the Persian Gulf. This was right around the time of Operation Desert Storm, and that was my first experience. While there, I saw the work that many of the EOD teams were doing. Became very inspired about that, and it validated for me my decision that this was going to be my professional calling. Shortly thereafter, I applied for and was accepted from transfer from the ship into dive school. Went through dive school, which is at the time was about a 6-month process. So the numbers, if you will, My dive school class, we started 20 and we graduated 10. My EOD school class, we started 25, we graduated 4. And that's, that's just, it's very, very selective to get in, but then the training itself is very rigorous, both academically and physically. And a lot of people ask me, well, how did you make it through? I said, well, it wasn't because I was the smartest or the strongest or the fastest. Rather, it was because I had that commitment that I told you about earlier. Some people call it having a hard head or being stubborn. And I also knew the value, and I appreciated the value of working on a team, because there were many activities where you had to demonstrate individual performance. Absolutely. But there were many activities that required that teamwork. So after EOD school, I was stationed out in Coronado, California, EOD Mobile Unit 3. I trained and worked with training and operating the U.S. Navy's marine mammal systems. These are bottlenose dolphins that are trained to find mines. Worked there for about 2 years, made a couple of other deployments as officer in charge of a mobile unit. Then I went back to Ingleside, Texas. I was executive officer or second in command of some minesweepers there. Really
let me
enjoyed that
step in
tour.
for a moment and ask you something, because this is, now, I talk to many veterans, I'm retired Army, and man, I'm just so fascinated that as a naval officer, you went through that, because I know, and what my son didn't realize, and that's why I'm making it civilianized for a lot of civilians. The Navy has a big separation between enlisted and officer, I mean, anyone who's ever been in the Navy will tell you that officers have their own mess, they eat in a certain spot. It's not like that in the Army at all. The O5 eats with the E1, so on and so forth. It's nothing like that. You carry the rucksack. For a naval officer, man, you have to have a lot of respect from your troops to go through that school and get qualified like that, especially when you're talking about only 4 people graduated from your EOD class. What level of respect did you believe the guys, that you served with, the sailors that you served with, had for you, just because you actually did it and you wasn't just the guy saying, go do it? I mean, talk about that.
Sure. Well, you hit on something, and that is that EOD training, it was officers and enlisted all together. There was no difference. So the exact same training, everybody had the exact same requirements. So that's a very key point. Dive school, there have been times when it was mixed. There have been times when it was all the officers together and enlisted together, but the 99% of our instructors were senior enlisted. So the standard was the same for everyone. There was no difference. E1 and up, O1 and up. The standard was exactly the same. You either met the standard and exceeded it, or you went home. I think that if you ask the individuals that I went through EOD school with, they would tell you that that one of the things that they would remember about me was integrity, and that is that we were challenged in a lot of different ways, and we were asked to do some very, very demanding things, and it's one of the things that I hold very, very dear as one of my core values is integrity. And I make sure that I'm going to do the best I can. And I make sure that I'm going to be honest and forthright in everything that I do. And I'm going to also make sure that that my teammates are right there with me. So my sense is if some of them were here right now, that's probably what they would say.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's fascinating, man. I mean, just listening to you tell the story, because I know that job alone is an extremely tough job. So we moved to there. I don't want to get tied down to units, because a lot of people want to understand the different units and stuff like that. Mainly me, because I'm an Army guy and I don't know anything like Navy. I don't even know my son's rank. I know he's an O2 in the Navy. I don't even know, what is the O2 in the Navy anyway? What is that?
Lieutenant junior grade.
Okay, he's a lieutenant junior grade. My youngest son's lieutenant junior grade. So I don't even know the Navy ranks. I always ask him, was it 01, 02? I mean, I don't know, son.
You got
Here we go. All right, here we go.
So
let's get into it, man. So you're going through your career. And I want to jump forward a few years
Okay, great.
because you're talking about 30 years.
Mhm.
In reading your qualifications, I got to ask the question, man. Seemed like you were lined up admiral. I mean, a guy with your qualifications, graduated from the academy and things of that nature, and combat vet. Why did you get out? Why didn't you stay? Talk about that decision, if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely. I think that it's fair to say that everyone knows when that time comes for them to leave the service, whether it is 5 years, 25 years. I knew that I had more to give. I knew that I had more gas in the tank, so to speak, and I
Right.
had a commitment to serve. Um, the at 30 years is the maximum that an officer can do if not selected for promotion to flag rank.
Right.
And I knew that I had put my best foot forward. I knew that I had wonderful recommendations, and I said to myself, if it works out that I get selected for promotion to flag rank, great. And if it doesn't, that's great too, because I've gotten to do everything that I wanted to do and then some since I was 17.
Yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful wife who is super patient and supported me at every turn. Wonderful children that I love that were very, very agreeable and supportive as well, and are very. I just enjoyed every minute of it. So when it came time for me to transition at the 30-year mark, it was a very easy decision to make. And it was one that also I had the full support of my family. Not a hard decision. People always say, "Oh, did you have a tough time with your transition?" No, not really, because
Really?
I knew it was coming. I had wonderful people who helped me and supported me in that journey, and I am the same person inside. I'm just wearing
Now,
something
Joe, hold on.
different.
I got to challenge you on this one, brother. Hold on. Now, hold on. I hear everything you're saying, and it sounds really good. So I'm just going to
Yep.
put me in there. I'm not talking about Joe because, we're just having a
Mhm,
great talk. We're having fun.
mhm.
Now, at the end of 20 years for me, same thing. People love me, great family. But I found something out. I did 20 years in, but the military got me for 20. Now you're telling me a Naval Academy guy and a 30-year military guy just walked away, no problem whatsoever. Because I had withdrawals
Mhm,
because I had a great retirement service one Friday. My grandmother came, my mama came, family members were there, aunts and
mhm.
uncles. We had a cookout at the house. It was special that Friday. That Monday I got up, I did not know who I was without that green beret.
Oh.
Now that's just me.
Mhm,
That's me. I mean, I'm not saying it's everybody, but the majority of lifers I know don't just walk away and the next day they're just skating and it's just I'm a civilian. But you're telling me that was Joe, so I'm trying to get to that part of it because you got integrity. I'm just saying, Joe, come on, man. You I mean, we're talking about a retired Navy captain, 30 years. And first day out, you were just skipping to my loo, living your life, moving on.
Well, I'll share this with you. People ask me if I miss the Navy, and I tell them that I don't necessarily miss the Navy. I miss my teammates.
I got you.
I miss the brotherhood and the sisterhood. I miss the camaraderie and the teamwork. I miss the ability to trust and know
Yeah.
that somebody else is going to put their life in your hands sometimes, and they know you have their back, and you're doing the same thing for them in return. I haven't found that yet in the private sector. I'll tell you that.
Man, see now you hit it. Now see that's real, because I tell so many military guys I talk to, and that's why we love talking to guys like you on these. I love talking to guys like you on the call. My wife says these things make me better. I don't know if I'm just crazy and bananas if I don't talk to vets every day, but I love talking to people like you, Joe, because that's real. The majority, I always tell people serving in special ops, I don't miss walking in the swamps in Savannah, Georgia, and freezing, jumping out of a plane in the middle of the night with, you know, 100 and some pound rucksack on
Yep.
a SFA team and humping up a mountain in the middle of the night, freezing. I don't miss that at all. Not one time in my retirement did I go, wow, wouldn't it be great to be back in Panama in the hot, you know, jungle of Panama in July. I've
Be
never said
fantastic. Let's go.
that, you
Where do
know?
we sign up?
Yeah. But you know what I say? I miss people like Joe talking, having a good time, you know, camaraderie, guys that you hung out with.
That's
So
right.
what have you founding? So now you retired. I man, I love the story. That's phenomenal. And you get ready to get out. Talk about your decision in your career, because really you knew, man. I mean, you just retired you know, 2 years ago, basically, right?
Yep.
So so you're still in that decision phase, or have you figured out this next step, or talk about that?
Yeah. So a good friend of mine gave me some advice, the retired Navy Master Chief E9. And he said to me, he said, who says when you retire that you have to do just one thing? He said, during your career, you used to juggle 15, 16 things at a time. And he says, who says you have to do one thing? So don't feel any pressure when you retire. Don't feel any push where, okay, I have to find my next career. I have to find my next passion, because you know, again, the Navy was what I know I was meant to do, and I was part of that for 34 years.
Wow.
I didn't retire with any illusion thinking that I was immediately going to find something that I was going to love for another 30 years that much. But I started 3 things simultaneously, and this has been keeping me focused, and it's been keeping me busy. I started a full-time consulting position where I enjoy very much working in support of still the Department of Defense. I also started a private practice that I'm building right now. I founded my own consulting firm. I knew that when I retired, at some point I wanted to start my own company. I just didn't realize what it would be. So I started that activity. And then the third thing I did is I do a lot of volunteer work with veteran service organizations, as well as with individual veterans, former teammates, colleagues of former teammates will call me up and they'll say, Joe, can you help me with my transition process? Can you give me some advice on what worked for you? What worked for you with the VA? What worked for you with your resume? What worked for you with interview preparation if you're going looking for a job? And I do that. I do that both individually and organizationally. And so full-time working, part-time building my business is going to be a small family business. My wife and daughters want to be involved, so I'm very happy about that. And then the volunteer work. Those 3 things kept me very busy, because, you know, when I retired, right, that was right when the lockdowns were starting from COVID. So unfortunately, I could not give my family the ability to have a retirement ceremony. I couldn't do some of those kinds of things. But it was okay. We in 4 months that I was essentially on terminal leave before I retired, our family spent more time together than we have in the past 20 years.
Oh, no
So
doubt.
that was we appreciated that. We were very grateful for that, and that meant a lot more than to us than a ceremony.
Oh, no doubt. So you came down to Tampa to get your last assignment, and you decided to stay in Tampa. And and you know, and of course I know, you know, they got MacDill Air Force Base down there, and I know a lot of old special ops officers and friends of mine in special forces that seem like that's the old retirement home for special ops people is Tampa. So I know a lot of people down there that I served with. You could have went anywhere in the world, though, man. I mean, with your background and career, I mean, why Tampa and not some other places that you know you could have gone?
Well, 2 reasons. Many years ago, and I'm talking about maybe the late 1990s, my wife and I, we had a conversation about it, and we knew that Tampa was going to be the area that we wanted to end up in. We love the area. We had some family here, visited here a few times, really, really enjoyed it. And we just knew that if we had the opportunity, this is the area that we wanted to be. We had settled on that early on. And now the second thing that I would tell you is I believe in the world today, where one is located has less impact on the value that they can add to an organization. Just look at what we're doing today. None of us are in the same location, but we're having an awesome conversation, and we're learning a lot about each other, and we're contributing to a team. And that can work for a team of 3. It can work for a team of 30,000. It can work for a globally networked corporation or organization that is trying to facilitate future operations across several time zones. And so I think that where one is located is a lot less important today than one's ability to understand the vision, understand the plan, and inspire people to get excited about it and get after it. And that's what I enjoy doing.
Come on, Joe. Now I hear the motivational speaker. I've been looking for that guy, man. You've been kind of buttoned up on me a little bit, but I've been looking for that guy, the motivational speaker, to show up. Now, look, I got a couple more questions for you.
Absolutely.
And the great thing about this conversation is, man, first off, again, I'm going to say this again, very, very impressed with your resume and career, man. I mean, very, very impressed with you, period. What a great American hero. And that's what this is, Convos with Heroes. Now, look, I consider, when I look at my military career, I've been blessed to do a lot of different things. But one of the biggest things I think I'm good at, I know I'm good at, is organization. I mean, I'm very good if you give me, the commander's intent, and I can get organized around something. Excuse me. What are 1, 2, or 3 things that you say, you know what? It's kind of like that boxer. If I'm getting attacked, I can do these 3 things, and I know I can do them. I can do 10 things, but these 2 or 3 things right here, I know not just I'm good at, I'm phenomenal. Joe, I need to know right now. I mean, if it's coming down, and I gotta have your best. Now, I'm not looking for 20 different things and a political answer, Joe. I'm saying right now, it's coming in, and I need to know, give me 2 or 3 things that Joe says, I know I can do this, and this brings value to an organization. What would that be?
Did you know I was a boxer? Is that why you did that?
Brother. I love it.
Yeah, I wasn't very good, but I will tell you that this is where the tenacity comes in, right? I lost more fights than I won, but I never got knocked down. I never got knocked out. I never got my nose broken. And I like to think that those in the ring with me got as good as they gave. What I learned from that was just the ability to overcome adversity. And when you're in the ring with someone that's, is better than you, you have to find a way. You have to find a way to get an edge. So what am I the best at? 2 things. The first one is change leadership. I'm not talking about change management or something that you read about in any of 62 books that are out there about it. I'm talking about when an organization has made a commitment to restructure, reorganize, rebrand, rebuild, make a merger, make an acquisition, make a major change. You have to have people who are change managers who execute what gets done. And you have to have people who are change leaders who inspire others to lead those to get the job done. I've done both. And I believe that I'm the best at that. I really enjoy it. It's something that it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like what I'm supposed to be doing, like we talked about earlier, what I'm meant to do. And so I've had several experiences in that. And when an organization is going through a change, whether it's a positive change, whether it's a negative change, they need someone who remains calm, who remains steady, and who inspires others to achieve more than they even believe themselves that could be possible. That's change leadership, no matter what the change in the organization is. The second thing that I know it has to do with the alignment of what I call the three-legged stool. A
Okay.
three-legged stool, you take out one leg, it's going to fall over. And that is every great organization has to have a compelling vision, an idea of where they're going. They have to have a strategy, a very simple plan of how they're going to get there. And they have to inspire talented people to understand how and why what they do matters every day, how and why what they do makes a difference. If you eliminate one of those three things, the organization will not be successful. And I have witnessed many organizations be unsuccessful at that because they fail to recognize that interrelationship between the three: vision, strategy, talent. I have seen very few organizations be extremely successful because they recognize that, they make it important, and they excel at it. And I enjoy doing that very much. And those are the two things I would say that I really enjoy doing the most: change leadership, and then inspiring others to understand that connection between vision, strategy, and talented people.
Man, that is phenomenal, Joe. You're teaching a leadership class, brother. I got another. Yeah. My son want to jump in here.
Yeah.
I can see he's into this kind of stuff. I'm gonna let him jump in.
Wonderful.
Yeah, no, this is really awesome stuff. What I guess with your consulting company, I'm curious, what types of organizations are you working with? Like size, area, location, like what kind of companies are you working with from a consulting perspective?
Sure. I had first thing I'll tell you is that I am not specific to any one geographic area or any kind of size, scope, or scale of organization, or of any industry or sector. It doesn't matter what the business is. Doesn't matter what the organization is. It doesn't matter how big they are or how small they are. They need leadership. They need an understanding of how do we build a simple plan to achieve the vision that we've set forth. What do I have to do next week? What do I have to do next month? What do I have to do next quarter? How does it all fit together? And then they need people to understand that. My experience, Gino, is that people don't get excited about what they don't understand. And it doesn't mean that just because you explain something to someone that they will get excited about it. But if you can't explain it to them, I can guarantee you they will not become a champion for that cause. So I've worked with all different types of organizations, large and small, global, trans-regional, regional, local. I've worked with organizations that are sometimes companies of 1 or 2 people. I've worked with organizations that are, over 123,000 people in many, many different sectors, but they all have a commonality. And that is what I mentioned earlier, that connection between the goal or the vision, the plan to make it happen, and talented people wanting to do better. In my experience, people, once they are shown their value to the team, and once it is demonstrated to them why what they do matters, and how what they do contributes to the end goal, you have that picture in your head of everybody rowing together. Now, I never rowed crew, but if you watch a crew team, everyone is doing exactly what they're supposed to do at all times. Every athlete is in perfect unison and pulling as hard as they can in the same direction, and they're all facing backwards. And that's because there's one element, one team member, the coxswain, who is steering, and there's that feeling of trust, and there's that feeling of mutual respect, and that understanding that every team member is going to do exactly what they're supposed to do at the precise time and place, and they're going to create that win for the team. That's what I enjoy doing, and that's how I bring it all together.
Joe, you're warming up, man. I'm gonna throw something else on you, brother. I love this leadership question that I throw to people when we're talking about leadership. And I've had this discussion for over 40 years with various leaders, right? And I'm gonna set it up like this. In the military, in my opinion, normally they send leaders on 2 tracks. Your management track is whatever job you're doing. They send you to schools to learn that, X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. But they always send you to leadership school that is equal to your rank with your peers. And that's how the Army works it out. You know, you go to this school for your job, but you go to these leadership schools all along the way, war college and things like that, that the military does. I know Navy and Army. When I hear a term all the time, and I want to get your take on it.
Sure.
Management and leadership.
Mm.
And I was taught you manage supplies, equipment, and you lead people. Let me ask you this question, Joe. Being a civilian now, take it from the military, because I know in the military we got leadership everywhere else. Now that you're working in the civilian force, do you see a lacking in leadership training? Is more technical skills at what they do and they don't understand the people side of it? Or, I mean, just give me your take. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but talk about management, leadership, how it affects different organizations you work with, and the concept and the mindset.
Sure, absolutely. So I'll answer that in two ways.
Sure.
As you pointed out, there is a big difference between leadership and management. And there are some individuals who think that difference is less. And there are other individuals who think that difference is greater. But there is a big difference between leadership and management. Those individuals who don't recognize that difference readily are going to face some distinct challenges, because the analogy that you used, managing supplies, leading people, very, very good, very good analogy. But you get into a larger organization, and I'm talking about, for example, let's say a globally networked corporation that has 100,000 employees or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? There are going to be multiple echelons, multiple layers in the quote unquote chain of command. And there will be people whose job it is when they come to work every day to be primarily a manager. And there will be other people who come in to work every day whose job it is to be a leader. I've always believed that leadership is not a position. It's not a rank. It's not an office. It's not a title. It's a commitment to a process of learning. It's a commitment to coming into work every day and saying, okay, I'm not the smartest person on my team. Who knows more about me on this particular issue? Who's better than me? Who's stronger than me? Who's faster than me? Let me bring them in so that they can help move the team forward. And when I do that, I'm going to do that in a way that inspires them to achieve more than they ever thought possible. That's an element of leadership. That's an intangible thing that you can't put a handle on. The manager, might have to collect everybody's data for a certain report today, and that's got to get done, and that's a necessary function, and that's important. But that is not the essence of being a leader. So to me, the difference between the two is very important to recognize, and the understanding that the leader is very self-aware, and the leader understands, I'm not the smartest person on my team. I need to practice something that may be a word that you don't hear of too much today, humility, that you have to practice humility, and you have to say, I'm not the best. Let me find out who the best are. Let me bring them together and let me inspire them toward a common goal.
Man, Joe, you warmed up now, brother. You warmed up, man. I got that fighter. I got that Jersey fighter coming out. I like what I'm hearing now, man. This is good stuff here. Look. Now, again, I want to talk about, if we get ready to wrap up, man. I mean, you had an incredible career, so many phenomenal leaders. I mean, I know from the academy, from the Naval Academy, to just, man, even your military career. Give just a couple of people, and you don't have to give a name if you want. Who were some of the mentors that you looked up to that taught you something? It may have been, like you said, a lower ranking person. It didn't have to be someone that was a senior ranking person, but give an idea of a couple of people, because this is what I love to say all the time. Joe didn't make it to 06, retired a Navy captain by himself.
No.
All right. He didn't make it by himself. This idea, every time I hear this term, it makes me cringe. Self-made man. And I just go, what? I don't know any self-made men. Anyone. I know that's a term people love to use, but I personally don't know any, because everybody taught you something, right?
Absolutely.
And I know, looking at the long career that you've had, brother, I'm asking you right now to pick a few people
Sure.
in that pile, but I know you can do it. And tell a story, man, about someone that taught you something in leadership. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I can think of many, and I definitely don't want to leave anybody out, but I have a few short clips that I'll share with you. As a young student in high school, because I was trying to do something that had not been done before, as you might imagine, I had many people that would tell me, "Well, you can't because," or "the deck's stacked against you, and why are you even trying?" And I had some wonderful teachers. I had some fantastic coaches that said to me, if that's what you want, go after it. And they didn't just say that to me. They gave me advice and mentorship and support and guidance and every once in a while a push when I needed it. And reinforced for me that even though there were many that were telling me what you're trying to do in going to the Naval Academy is not possible. Don't try.
Wow.
I had many that stood behind me, that gave me that motivation. Fast forward a little bit into my career, I was in one of my, I would say I was in approximately 14 years at this point. And I had a senior officer. I was a lieutenant commander, 04 at the time, and I had a senior officer that I was working with on the same team. He was a captain, and he came to me one day. He said, "Do you have a minute?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I've been watching you do your job, and you do a wonderful job." He said, "I see you running around. You're at every meeting. You're taking notes. You're helping people. You're providing great results. You're leading the teams that you're supposed to lead. You're doing great work for the admiral, and it's fantastic." He said, "But when are you going to move out of that, and when are you going to move on to the next stage of your career?" And I said, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, let me ask you this." He said, "You are doing a lot of things. When are you going to stop doing things well and lead and inspire others to accomplish great things?" And he kind of froze me in my tracks at the time. And that was a major change for me in my approach to the way I interacted with others, to the way I led, to the way I organized, because he struck a chord with me and he said, "Don't just do things, lead others to accomplish great things." And that made a major difference for me in my focus going forward. And then, of course, there were many fantastic and wonderful leaders that I've had throughout my career, both officers and enlisted. I cannot single out for you one and say that one had a major impact on me. But a story I'll share with you was a time when I was assuming command of a forward deployed task force. And I sat down with my new boss, who was a 3-star, just about ready to get promoted to 4-star. And I remember vividly sitting in the office, and he said to me, "You could play it safe. You could be very conservative. You could essentially manage your command and of 2,500 sailors and Marines, or you could lead them and you could inspire them to move forward and do greater things in the future." He said, "One route is very conservative. You're guaranteed not to get in trouble. You're guaranteed to be very safe. And that's probably, an okay way to go." He said, "The other route, a little bit more bold, and you're doing everything right. You're doing everything that you're supposed to do, but you're helping to move the command forward." And he said, "Whichever path you choose, make sure to be yourself. Make sure to do what you believe is the right thing to do." And those words stuck with me. And I kind of already knew what path I was taking before I got there. And I'm sure you know which path I took. But that was a very pivotal conversation for me, and really meant a lot as I look back in my career. So those are three stories I'd share with you.
Oh man, this is phenomenal. I'm getting ready to kick it over to my son for a final question, but I'm telling you, man, I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation because listening to some of the pearls of wisdom and leadership and knowledge, man, and just the concept on how to deal with people and inspiring and motivating people and getting them to do their things, but through inspiration, motivation, proper guidance. Joe, this is good stuff, man. This is good stuff, brother. I'm gonna shut it down. You got me fired up, dude. And I'm telling you, listening to you and some of the stories, I can tell why your people respected you and still give you that kind of respect even now. Absolutely. Go ahead,
Major,
sir.
thank you very much. I
Yes,
really
sir.
appreciate it. And you're an inspiration for what you're doing, how you're doing it, your high energy and positive attitude. And it means a lot to me. It's been my honor talking with you. So thank you so much.
Oh man, our honor. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Joe. Man, this has been really good stuff, Joe. And I got a few questions for you because I feel like, you doing the thing that you've done, I know you've got a lot of insights and from your perspective to really bring out to people who are listening. And so just speaking from somebody who served 30 years and now you're in the civilian world, what is one lesson that your job taught you just in EOD, which I know is a lot of stuff that you mentioned in the beginning, but what's one lesson that your job taught you that you think everyone should learn at some point in their life?
Yeah, I alluded to it earlier, but I think it's the lesson of humility, and it's understanding that once you know that and you accept that you must always do your best, but you will likely not always be the best. You have to understand there is someone who will always be smarter, stronger, and faster and better than you in many areas. You may actually be the best in certain areas, which is fine. But doing your best in all endeavors, giving 100% every day, and always trying to improve yourself means, by definition, that you're also trying to improve others. You're helping out your team, and you have that feeling of selflessness and that feeling of humility. Without that lesson, you can go down a path, as we always used to tell our young students and our young candidates at EOD school. Absolutely want you to be confident. Do not let confidence become arrogance ever. Don't let it happen.
Yeah.
So keep that air of humility, and keep that idea that you're not the smartest and you're not the best. And it's amazing what a team can accomplish when you don't care about who gets the credit. When you're just that quiet professional who says, I'm going to do what's right the first time, every time, and I'm going to get right back to it. And I'm not really too concerned about getting an accolade for it.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. Great advice. Great advice. Before I get into the last question, Joe, I want to give you another opportunity to tell people how they can reach out to you from a consulting perspective. And I know you're also helping out the community with serving veterans. Like, how can people really get in touch with you and get the help that you're giving to the world?
Sure, absolutely. So my website is the Alakai Group at gmail.com. Alakai, ALAKAI, is a word in Hawaiian that means great leadership. It's a lot more like an attitude, a lifestyle, or a culture than it is a skill or a capability. It's a combination of that warrior spirit. We're going to find a way, or we're going to make one, and caring, humility, and grace and poise, with respect for others and how they do business. My email is thealakaigroup@gmail.com, and you can reach out to me that way as well. And also on my LinkedIn profile, it's just Joseph Polanin on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me those three ways. My contact information is also there. The focus, as I mentioned earlier, of what I do with Alakai is to help companies understand how to accelerate and mobilize their capabilities toward their vision. So a company has a goal. If it's articulated, that's great. If they have a vision statement, that's fantastic. Do they have a simple plan that puts their vision in action? And do they know how they inspire and educate their people? And if I'm working in a team of 20, or I'm working in a team of 20,000, if I have a conversation with the CEO And then I walk out into the hallway and I have a conversation with one of the line employees or perhaps an entry-level position employee. And I ask them a question. They probably won't give me the exact same answer that the CEO does, but they should give me an answer that lets me know that they understand the vision and they know how what they do fits into it. If they don't, then I know that that I can help that organization. My thesis is if a company is running perfectly, they don't need me. I just haven't found one yet that's running perfectly when it comes to this alignment that we're talking about. So that's what motivates me. That's what keeps me going.
That's amazing. That is great stuff. Now we'll definitely be sharing this with folks, and you have people that'll learn more about the Alakai Group. And I'm excited to share what you've been doing with other folks.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
So Joe, we always like to end our interviews with this one final question. And I'm looking forward to hearing your answer to this one. But the question is, when your life is over, what do you want people to remember you for?
Well, there are really only a few things. And I would expect you've gotten this answer before. I would like to be remembered that I was a good husband. I would like to be remembered that I was a good father who cared for, loved, and inspired and motivated my children to A, exceed their own potential that they believe possible, but also B, go further than I did and be able to achieve even more than I did because they can do anything. The other two things I'd like to be remembered for are that I always did my best, no matter the circumstances, that there wouldn't be anybody that would say that I gave less than 100% in any endeavor. And that when I did so in that team spirit and with that confidence that we talked about earlier, that I always brought my teammate along. So good husband, good father, that I always gave 100% and that I never forgot a teammate.
It's amazing. Awesome. That is golden, Joe. Thank you, sir. Excited to put that out there. Thank you so much for all you're doing, what you're serving the world, serving your family, and just the difference. Thank you for being a hero.
Well, you use that word. I don't think of myself that way, but you're so kind and so generous. Thank you very much for the time today to spend with you having this conversation. And I thank you for what you're doing for our veterans everywhere. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. You're welcome. Our pleasure. Our pleasure. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and pass over to my dad to go ahead and close us out.
Well, man, I tell you what, everybody watching the podcast, man, Joe has absolutely put us on fire today. That's one word, on fire, on fire. I mean, with leadership pearls, I'm talking about, 34 plus years of serving our nation. I would call you a hero, sir. Absolutely. Retired, 06 Navy captain and out here doing some great things in this world. But you know how I got to finish your call. This is Ranger Johnson telling you to stay in the fight.